Hello and welcome to the instructional video on how to use the Bailey Autograph 744. Apologies for the, it's a bit windy today, so apologies for any sound quality issues, but I'll do my best I can. So we'll go through the outside first and then we'll go on to the inside of the vehicle. So we'll start with the cab. That's where you fill the fuel, so you need the key to open that up. That's the AdBlue additive. There is a readout on the dash to tell you when that's becoming low. If you let it go to 0, you won't be able to start the engine. So it's very important that that's kept topped up. But there is a warning well in advance of it getting to that stage on the dash. So in terms of the cab, the bonnet release catch is just here. So I've opened that up and we'll go to that in a second. Your tyre pressures are just here. But I would refer to the actual tyres because they use specialist tyres on this vehicle. So the cab blinds, to blank off your cab, operate like that. So if you do it in one smooth action and keep that bar straight as you're going across, it's magnetic on that side. So they pop that clips into there, and to release it you're pinching those two together. That's exactly the same on the cab. They draw across and you can see that that section there extends to bridge the gap where the rear view mirror is mounted. So they join together on the other side from that side, and they're magnetically joined together. There's a magnetic strip across the front there that keeps them closed. Again, just pinch together, push that back down. So under the bonnet then, you've got your coolant, power steering fluid and brake fluid, your oil fill, just down there with the orange cap, that's the dipstick. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, there is a method of doing that. I'll just need to grab the key so I can open the tab up. Okay, so there's a positive terminal here. You just need the key. You put your key in that little gap there and open that up. So the jump lead would go onto that. That's your positive. The negative terminal is just here. You've got positive there, down there on that tab with a cover on it, and negative there. So I'll make my way around the vehicle and show you the various lockers. Just be careful, that's where the exhaust is. It can be quite a low exhaust, that's if you're going over speed humps. The main supply comes into the vehicle here. There's a mains cable in it. That's disconnected. It just pulls out and pushes on. When you're pushing that on, lift the lid up like that and then push in. Like that, so we're connected to the electric. This is your gas locker. It takes 2 bottles. On the end of there is a flexible hose. It's inside the vehicle, but there will be a flexible hose on the end of that that connects to your bottles. It's reverse thread from that onto your bottle, so you're going anti-clockwise. You're screwing anti-clockwise into the gas bottle, and then clockwise to take it off. So it takes 2 bottles, and those straps go around the gas bottles, and the base of the gas bottles are mounted in here. Next one along is the water. Okay, so that's where the water comes in and fills the tank of the vehicle. That's all the water that you're using for your shower, washing up, etc. It connects via this hose here, so that end clips into here. And then the other end just goes onto a normal hose pipe, so it's just a standard bayonet fitting. So at home, or on site, you would have the hose pipe that would connect directly onto. So on the end of the tap, you've got that, and then the hose pipe just connects straight onto that. And that's how you fill the water. Just fill it until it overflows. There's an overflow underneath. You'll see water pouring out, and then you know that the tank is full. Okay, these are vents for the fridge. So what the fridge needs to do is vent So it draws cool air in at the bottom, expels warm air at the top. These need to be kept clear of debris. If anything gets in there, it'll affect the efficiency of the fridge, so they just need to be kept clear, but it is normal for them to be vented like that, and that's how they should look. Next one along is the toilet. So on the toilet itself inside, there's an indicator to tell you when the tank is full and needs emptying. It's emptied via this tab here. Lift that up and slide this out. If it won't come out, don't force it, because it'll mean that the valve inside is open. You need to go back inside and close the valve inside. That'll become clear when I show you the toilet inside. But don't force this cassette out, otherwise you'll break the mechanism. So to empty this, you pull this out. Take that nozzle, unscrew the end, and pour away the liquid which is in here and the toilet waste. As you're pouring away, press this button here. That lets air in as liquid is coming out, so that it stops it splashing. Into this needs to go the toilet chemical that breaks down all the fluid, breaks down all the solids and turns everything into a liquid. So you open that up like that. This is the valve that I was talking about that needs to be closed, and then you open it up like that, pour the chemical into there once it's empty, put a little bit of water in the bottom, give it a swirl round, and you're ready to go again. Just one tip with these, they are on wheels, so it's got wheels at the side there, and this handle will extend so that you can wheel it off to the disposal point that they've got on the sides. To put this back in, you just line the wheels up on the runners there, like that, and then push it back in. You know it's in position when that little lug sits in there like that. Okay, so round to the back of the vehicle. Down there. This is the bike rack. I'll show you how that comes down. Okay, so the bike rack, that's in its closed position. What happens is you pull it down like that. The bikes sit on these rails. This tab goes over the wheels of the bike to hold the bike in position. So you're pressing that button in. Just a bit difficult with one hand, but you can see how that works. And then these go on the crossbar of the bikes. So this longer one will be for the first bike here, second one, second rail, etc, etc. Working around to this corner of the vehicle, this is the exhaust for the boiler. So that's where the chimney is for the boiler when it's working on gas. That just needs to be kept clear, preferably when the when you're using this on gas. Keep this locker door closed, also the window above, because you've got exhaust gas coming out of here. You will get steam coming from here. It's just the because it's burning the gas, so you get condensated water. This is your storage. In there is a cable. The carpets are in there as well. This is the area underneath the bed, but we'll come to that when we go inside. Just while I'm here, I'll show you how the lockers work. So they're retained on this little lug here. It pushes into there. Now they are quite stiff. You have to slam it, and then to pull them off again, it's quite stiff. You've got to pull those off like that. All the lockers are the same, so to close them, it's that position there, and then to lock them, grab the key. It's one of these keys here. So the key goes in like that. Turn it and then press it in so that it's no longer showing a red collar. You know that it's open when it's showing the red collar, but the locker's still closed because you turn this round to actually close it. Next one along is the external gas supply. This taps into these gas locker on the other side, so it's showing you the gas system. To switch it on, just bear with me. Okay, so that's in the on position with the valve pointing that way. So how this works is you've got this bayonet fitting here, which clips into there. So you're just pushing that in. and then to release it, you pull this collar on the outside here towards you, and that releases this. So the gas hose will go onto the end of this and then go off to your barbecue or your heater, whichever gas appliances you want to use outside. Next one along is an external mains socket. So if you've got an external mains appliance that you want to use outside, you can tap into the vehicle's electric supply around the other side. So just a standard 3-pin plug. Just while we're outside, I forgot to mention about the waste disposal points, which is around this side of the vehicle on the driver's side. So the waste water, so everything that goes down your sink and down your shower ends up in a tank which is underneath just here, and there's an indication on the control panel to tell you when to empty that. So that's in the open position, that's in the closed position, and you're just driving over a grid that they've got on the sites, and that just pulls away onto the grid. So that concludes the outside of the vehicle. We'll move on to the inside. Opening the door, you're just pulling this lever here. I'm on to the inside of the vehicle now. Start with the seats. So these are captain's swivel chairs. Obviously they're in the forward facing position now. If you want to turn those around, that's done via this tab here. So you pull that tab like that, and then you can use that to turn the chair around. Sometimes it won't go round in one go. You've got to come forward with the bar underneath to allow it to get past the bulkhead there. So that's one, and the same on the driver's side. Again, to get past the steering wheel, you need to come forward and then back again. So that's both seats swivel round. Okay, so we're at the front of the vehicle. I'll work from the front towards the back, just pointing out the various controls. So, first one to note is this in the dinette area here. That's your circuit breaker and 12-volt fuses. So they're all listed to which individual appliance they refer to. So if you've got a problem with a 12-volt appliance in the vehicle, so first one there, for example, is lights. That's going to be the fuse that you would need to check first of all. That's a mains circuit breaker, so if you've got a problem with a mains appliance and it's shorting out, that will trip this. So it's like a domestic circuit breaker that you would have at home. So that'll stop the various sockets in the vehicle. You can test it by pressing that button there. This unit here is also the charger unit, which charges up the leisure battery. That's where the leisure battery is housed, underneath two covers. You shouldn't need to do anything with that battery at all. It should just look after itself because it's got the charger charging it. It's also got a solar panel on the roof charging that. But if you need to replace it or gain access to it, that's where you do so. In the front area here, you've got a main socket with a switch next to it. That is simply a fan heater to blow air over the radiators to just gain heat quicker. Okay, so the dinette area is where the seat belts are. So you've got a receiver there for one of the seat belts and another one tucked away down there. The seat belts are behind here, so this cover comes off and they need to be placed over the top of those seats covers there, which I'll do for you before you collect it. When there's a passenger travelling, when there's two passengers here travelling, obviously they need the legs to go down here. So this section is removable. So take that cushion out, and that section there is removed so that the passenger's legs can sit down in that area. Okay, so in this area there's a table. The table can either clip onto this rail here, which I'll do for you in a second, or I think it can be used as a freestanding table, but I'll demonstrate the table now. The table does form part of the bed, which sits on that lip there and comes across to sit in this area here, and there's another section that sits on that rail to bridge the gap between these two. I'll make the bed up now for you. Okay, so there's two tables, the first one being the one which I said could clip onto this rail here. You can see these are elbow joints on the legs, so that supports it when it's a table that's clipping onto there. When it's to form part of the bed, that'll become clear in a second when I make it up. but that's the leg that supports it when it's forming part of the bed. The same situation on the larger freestanding table. So it's got an elbow joint here, one here, and then you've got your legs. So if you just want it to be a table, you pull the legs out like that. When it's forming part of the bed, you're pressing the button in on there, and then it's a shorter leg so that it can form the gap, bridge the gap between that area there. When you're using this smaller table here, if you want to just clip it on rather than using the bigger freestanding table, it clips on. So you've got your leg and then the table like that. When you're clipping this on, clip it on when it's sort of angle it in like that, clip on the top rails and then let it go down, so you can see how that went on. And then to remove it, lift it up, angle it up like that, and then it'll remove. Okay, so I've used the tables to make up the bed base using the elbowed legs which I showed you. So that's the smaller one there, and then the larger freestanding table inside has got both its legs in the elbow position. This table clips onto that rail in the same way as how I showed you that it clips onto that one there. Okay, so once you've made the base for the bed, you then use these cushions in this configuration. So that is from the back of there. That's an additional cushion which is stored underneath the bed, as is that. That cushion is from the back there. So that is the cushion configuration when the bed's made up. The small table is stowed away in the wardrobe, which is next to the main entrance door. The larger freestanding table, when the bed is lifted up, which we'll come to in a second, is stored away on these rails which run down here. So that's where the table is stored. When the table's stored away, that's how it looks. It goes into those rails there. Okay, so moving on to the kitchen area. We've got a microwave. Obviously that's only going to work when you're plugged into a main supply. Underneath that is the control panel for the heating. So this runs on a central heating system rather than a fan or a blown air system. So how this works is you're pressing on for on, obviously. Okay, so when you come to the functionality of it, press menu, dead straightforward this. Select your temperature that you want, so 22 degrees is room temperature. That selects how hot you want your water. I would just leave it in the hottest position and mix it with cold so that you've got a lot of warm water, if that makes sense. Okay, the next one down is concerning the power that you want to draw. So this one here is electric. So you've got a choice there of 3 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts or a kilowatt. Now that is relevant in on some sites that are low ampage. When you arrive on the site, ask them what the ampage is. If it's a 13 amp, then you're okay to use the 3 kilowatt, which is more powerful and will heat up more quickly. Next one down is gas. So you're selecting that you want to run your heating on gas. So in this configuration here, it's running on gas and electric together. We're not connected to gas, so I'm going to switch that off. We are connected to mains supply. When this goes off, it'll show you that it's got an electric supply coming in. So that symbol there is showing you, and you've got a temperature reading. There is a settings menu, wouldn't worry about it. It's only if you want to set it to come on at a certain time, etc., and you can change the configurations of this control panel. The instructions for that are in the manual. For simple ease of use, they're the controls that you need to use. So you've got temperature, water temperature, electric power output, and the choice of switching it on to gas. Okay, so hob and oven, fairly straightforward. You've got a cover for it. underneath a gas, underneath a glass lid. When you first connect your gas bottle, this won't light because there's air in the pipes, so you've got to flush the air out of the pipes and wait for a pure flow of gas to start coming through your hob. Now that applies to all the gas appliances, including the heating. So the easiest way to do that is to switch the hob on, run your gas through on one of the rings, keep it trying to ignite it for a prolonged period of time until that ignites and stays lit. Then you know that you've pushed all the air out of the pipes and you've got gas coming through. On the floor in the kitchen area is access to the waste tank. Shouldn't ever need to go in there unless you want to sanitize it or adjust one of the reading probes, etc. But that's all that is. So while we're in the middle section of the motorhome is the main control panel. So this basically is the master switch and will switch your motorhome on and off. So you've got master on, master off. So that'll control your lights, pump, all the 12-volt appliances. Okay, so this symbol here shows that we're plugged into mains, so if that disappears you know that either the main supply is bad or the circuit breaker has gone in the dinette area where I showed you where that was. Second symbol along is your showing you that there's no water in the tank. When that symbol illuminates, you're down to 10% or less in your fresh water tank, so it's just a warning to tell you about that. Control panel, so let me see if I can get a better light for you. Okay, so you're basically scrolling through this control panel. So that's showing you that you've got 14.2 volts in your battery. That's a good battery. We're plugged into mains, so that is showing you that the battery is in good condition. A good battery should be between 12.5 and 14 volts. So next one up from that, vehicle voltage, so 13.4, so that's a good vehicle battery. Leisure current, that if there was a draw across this leisure battery, then it would show a figure in there of how many amps are being drawn. So if you had all the 12-volt appliances on, all the lights, you were watching a television on 12 volts, etc., it would show a draw across there. But because we're plugged into mains, it's showing 0 because whatever's coming out is being replenished by the charger and the mains supply. 61 degrees Fahrenheit, you can actually change that to Celsius in the settings menu. Internal. External, again, you can change that to centigrade. Water level 0, so that's your fresh water level. Wastewater level 0 because we've left the tap open. You can select your engine battery. So at the moment we're running on the leisure battery, which is the battery I showed you in the dinette area. I would always leave it on leisure battery. You can change it if you were to discharge your leisure battery and you needed power in the vehicle, if you needed your lights on, but you can't do it while you're plugged in. So you need to unplug and then change that by pressing the enter button here. Water fill, don't need to worry about that because you just fill the tank until it overflows. If you had a container of water on the floor, you could open that and pump water into the vehicle, but you're just using the hose that's provided. And then you've got a settings menu which you can enter by pressing that enter button. That's all explained in the manual. As I say, you shouldn't really need to go in there, but if you do want to change any of the settings, the brightness, etc., it is shown in the manual. Next one along here is the water pump. So you need a pump to be able to pump from the tank, which we showed you how to fill, and eventually get it out of your tap. Now, when you first fill it up with water, again, similar system to the gas, you've got air in the pipes. You then need to pump all the air out until you get a pure flow of water coming through this tap. It's no good switching your water heater on unless you've got your system primed and all the air out of the pipes. So back to the control panel, that's just your mains lights. So all the lights in the vehicle will come on and go off via that, and that's your outside awning light. So just moving towards the back of the vehicle, that is the water tank. So that's the fresh water tank. The one at the front was the wastewater tank. This is the fresh water tank. Okay, so apologies, I got that the wrong way around. The one, this here at the front, which is nearest to the kitchen, is your fresh water tank. In winter conditions, if it's not being used, it must be drained down. If water's left in here to freeze, it'll expand and crack the tank. So you can probably see there's a hole there, and there's a plug on a chain which goes into that hole. And that's how you seal the water tank. So it must be drained down in winter, or any time that you're not using it, because you don't want stagnant water sitting in there. Whenever you're closing this back up, make sure that the seals are really tight, because the tank, when you fill it, it'll pressurise, so you don't want water spilling out of the top of that seal. So just to reiterate, the one at the front, that's the fresh, that's your wastewater. So the wastewater you don't need to do anything with. Moving on to the fridge. Okay, so this is a three-way fridge, and it's manually operated. Okay, so first one is electric. So we're plugged into electric today. You turn that round, that dial round to point at the electric symbol. That will run perfectly well and get the fridge cold and stay cold. Next one down is 12 volt. Now that will only work while the engine is running. It uses the engine's alternator to power this fridge. It won't get the fridge cold. You need to get it cold first on electric or gas. So that's while you're travelling. If you forget to do that, the fridge will start to get warm. If you're on a long journey, it'll start to get warm. So we want to keep things cool in the fridge while you're travelling. You must get it cold first for an hour or two, and then switch it to 12 volt or engine alternator. To run it on gas, you need to put that into the gas position, and then it must be ignited. Okay, so to do that, you push in this knob here and then press this. When it ignites, which it won't do because we're not plugged into gas, so you're pressing these two in as you would on a gas fire or a gas hob. This needle here will move over into the green. Now it needs to stay in the green, otherwise it's not ignited. So once it moves over to the green and you're pressing in on these, it must leave it in the green for count to sort of 20 seconds and then let go and make sure it stays in the green. If it goes over to this red here, it hasn't ignited, or then you need to start again trying to ignite it. Okay, so underneath the bed is where the boiler is housed. So this is the control that I showed you that's dealing with the hot water and the heating. Similar to the fresh water tank, this must be drained down in freezing conditions. If it's not in use, if it's in use, then obviously it's warm and doesn't matter. And the valve to do that is that little orange yellow tab there. That's open. I'll just show you in the closed position. Okay, so when it's pointing horizontally like that, that's closed, meaning that that is in the operational position. So you won't get any water coming through your taps, through your hot water tap, unless that tab looks like that. So in winter it must be pointing upwards, and when it's not in use, when it's not in use or in winter, pointing upwards. When it's in use, pointing horizontally as it is now. Okay, so bathrooms, tap, exactly the same as what I said about the kitchen tap. You need to open this up into the hot position, wait until you get a pure flow of water out of it when you've first filled up. Do the same on the cold side, wait till they get a pure flow of water coming out of there, and then you know all the air is out the pipes and you're just dealing with pure water coming out the taps. Toilet, this is where I showed you how to empty the toilet cassette. So when you're using this toilet, that tells you when that cassette is full, the one I showed you how to empty outside. That's the flush, so you're pressing that to flush it. Flush comes out of there, swirls around. So when you first come to use it, this here opens up that blade that I talked about. So that's connected directly to that tank underneath it, the one I showed you how to empty. So to use it, open it up, use the toilet, press the flush, close it back up. Dead important that you close that back up before you set off, otherwise you've got liquid swirling around in here and it can splash over. Shower, dead straightforward, it's a mixer tap. Again, need to switch that on and get a pure flow of water coming out the shower head so that you know that you've drained the system of all the air. So that concludes the instructional video on the Bailey Autograph 744. The awning on the side of the vehicle is done on a separate video, which I'll also send you.